Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. I haven't really talked about on any of these videos Rise of TMNT, as it's a little easier to say, before, but I've watched it quite a bit with my daughter. I'm not one of those people who watched everyone in order. We kind of watched it loosey-goosey style, like watching one here, watching one there. I've seen bits of season 2, I've seen more season 1. I've not seen all of it, but I do really like it, and I like watching it. My daughter and I watch it usually together. I watched it before by myself, but then I showed her and she got really into it, particularly because April O'Neil is younger, or to her that's just April O'Neil, because that's her first April O'Neil. This is her first Turtle show. I really love this show. I think it's probably the best animation in a Ninja Turtle show ever. The Ninja Turtles are probably one of the biggest animated shows of all time, but I don't think it's known for like really great animation, which Rise of TMNT has in spades by Flying Bark Productions, who does an amazing job. They seem to be very influenced by Studio Trigger in particular, which I know is a style maybe not everyone is as familiar with, from things like Kill la Kill and Promare, and I know they did one for that Star Wars anthology thing and stuff, but I really like that animation style. Even if you don't love the storytelling, it's just gorgeous animation to look at, and Rise of TMNT has that. Most of the time, if people saw us watching the show, they'd walk by and go, what is that? Like, that's such an arresting look to it, and Rise of TMNT, the movie, has that so well. Rise of TMNT has that even greater because it's a movie, I guess, at a bigger budget. There's so much action, so much going on, it's almost overwhelming, and it might just be also because the animation itself is overwhelming. I mean, these guys could, like, you know, if they did My Dinner with Andre, you'd probably have so many cuts and things, and the frame getting cut up into different places and things, you'd swear it's an action movie. I mean, so there's so many times where if they don't have an action sequence, the animation is insane. But then you get to an action sequence, I mean, I think these guys should be probably some of the best action I've seen of any movie this year, and yeah, it is. That's not even a question. I don't know why the people who make these should be, you know, storyboarding pretty much every action sequence in the world, because there's so much going on. It's crazy, it's frenetic, it's compelling, and yet you can tell exactly what's going on. That's real genius, especially nowadays, trust me. But if you've never seen the show, first off, you should. It's kind of an animation fan's wet dream of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show. I never really thought we'd, at this point, get such a great animated show of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But if you want to just watch this movie, you can. It kind of it sets itself up where, like, I think, yeah, I agree, you should know the characters better, which this movie does kind of expect you. I mean, it's kind of a follow-up to the 2 seasons that have been made, but I agree with that. But I think you could follow it, but you'd probably be more connected if you just watched a few episodes, which you should. I don't know why you wouldn't. It is a really, really well animated show. In fact, I think this might be the best animated movie, like the best animation I've seen in a movie probably all year. It definitely will be in the top of any of them, just because it's so dynamic, so compelling, and much in that Studio Trigger way where I just want to, like, look at everything that's going on. It's really hard to keep your eyes off the screen, and when you do, you feel like you possibly could have missed something. It's just so gorgeous. I've always wanted to see this kind of animation style on the big screen. I haven't, but one day I hope to. This was kind of a fun movie for me and my daughter because I got her kind of a special, I think I have the wrapper of it. This thing at the grocery store, they have like eggs with like toys in them and stuff. I'll probably just cut to a close-up of it. A Rise of TMNT like toy egg, and we got like a puzzle and a lollipop, and so it was like kind of a fun thing, and I thought that was fun. So I supported the show both by watching it, and we bought some merch, and she had a cool puzzle, which you'll see at the end card and stuff. That was a lot of fun. I was surprised how kind of intense and scarier this was. It sort of reminded me of something like Infinity War, where it's like all action all the time, like going from this thing to this thing, like this is really serious, action sequence, this is really serious, we need to grow up and come up with a way to do this is really serious, going like boom 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 so quickly, you're surprised the movie can like keep up with it without dropping it. But I do think one of the interesting things about this film is it does a lot of things that we've seen cliched in so many different blockbusters and action sequences. I mean, there's a part with like a portal that reminds me of like, you know, Scoob and Avengers, and there's a part with like, there's a lot of parts that like remind me of other kind of blockbuster things. But I think I think there's so much going on visually and plot-wise and everything, you kind of let go some things that I think if a normal movie just did them, you'd be like, yeah, it's kind of doing the genre or whatever, doing those beats that we're used to. It doesn't feel that way, I think, because this film feels so unique. One thing I think that also is different is it really does not acknowledge the plot of the show, which was like all these people in New York turning into mutated creatures throughout it. Like, just, I mean, they're characters in this, but if you're watching this and you never watch a show, you'd probably just assume like, I don't know, those are weird Ninja Turtle villains, whatever, and like don't really think, because like, why would you wouldn't know. So that is interesting that like after I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, they don't even mention that. But the plot of this is, I've gone ranting about a lot of things that aren't the movie, so sorry. The plot of this is Casey Jones is in the future in 2044, which, much like our reality, it did not turn out so well. Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Casey Jones in the future, because there isn't a Casey Jones in Rise of TMNT. There is, but it's not, whatever. He goes back in time to stop the Krangs who have taken over New York, and we're to assume the world as well. But to a New Yorker, is there anything else? But they take over the world, and he's going to go back and stop this key from opening the portal and from all this awful things from happening, or freeing Krang from this prison and stuff. He goes back and finds the turtles, finds Leonardo is not the leader he thought he would be, the sensei that he grew up with. Michelangelo is different. We're to assume several of the turtles, Donatello and Raph, probably died in the future, we're not sure. But they have to go back and stop the key from getting to the Krangs, which the Ninja Turtles have already lost to the Krangs, so Leo's bad leadership. And then they have to kind of get it back as all the Krangs take over New York City and do some like pretty horrifying, like transforming the Foot Clan into these horrible monsters and stuff like that. This did remind me, I think, especially of a show that then made a very serious, like crazy movie, would be the Transformers movie and the G.I. Joe movie, because like when I was watching it with my daughter, there were a lot of times I have to be like, no, this is a movie, they'll be okay, like Michelangelo in the future is fine, don't worry about it, it's a possible future, that doesn't count. And I had to explain possible futures, which I guess is like the talk you have to give your kids at some point. But just because it is more serious, the stakes are raised, it's very important to them, and it's almost like hey, this is the big adventure. And we've seen so many of the big adventure movies, but this one really felt that way. And as well as like they were able to keep up the comedic tone, it didn't just drop that. It feels like you almost have 4 Bugs Bunnies in this show sometimes. And I really actually liked how they're able to do that with all the crazy animation, which is frankly insane. The pace and everything it had going for it, despite 2, I think, pretty new directors actually, Ant Ward and Andy Serenio, whatever, his name will be somewhere down here, I don't know, it'll be on the screen, so sorry, who also came up with the story of this. Was written by Tony Canolato and Rebecca May. Sorry, I'm not good at reading things, but this is a new setup, so the screen's a little far. I'm like, what is that? I can't read it. I also did like the East Laird University, that was cool. But yeah, I'm surprised. They were character designers and had worked in animation before, so they were hardly novices, really. But this is just the pace of this, the seriousness of it while still being very funny. Everything with the turtles in this is just like, I was really wrapped up in this, and I was just like, oh, we're just watching this, like, you know, we like this show and I'm going to review it and stuff. We're just watching this movie and I got my kid a lollipop and stuff. And I'm just like totally shocked and sucked into this to such a point. I was like, wow, this is really good. I'd actually say it's one of the best Ninja Turtle movies ever. And I'm someone who saw the first one in theaters, I think opening weekend. Let's just say that's the case. It was really crowded. So, you know, probably. But I've watched these movies for most of my life, and I'm sure there's some of the direct-to-video ones maybe I haven't seen and stuff, but of the ones I have seen, I would still say this is one of the best ones, and one of the most exciting ones, and one of the ones I would say that demands that the show should be seen. I'm always shocked that more people don't know about this, and I get that it's like the umpteenth reboot of this franchise that started as a parody and somehow became this, and it's super weird, but it is such a good show. It is such a good franchise, Rise of TMNT, and this movie demands that you go out and see this. Like, it is, you are missing out. Even if you're like, I would never watch a Ninja Turtle show at my age or something, you are missing out entirely on one of the great pieces of animation of our era. I think one of the best TV things of our era, showing what America, or this is an Australian animation company actually, someone outside of Japan can do with that Studio Trigger style is just so beautiful. It like wraps you up in a blanket of just like visual eye candy goodies that you just like can't rip your eyes off of. It just like has, it just so like, and the thing is, I've watched some of these twice, and the episodes of this, and my daughter was even like, I want to watch that again. I was like, I want to watch it again too, and there's going to be new things I admire about it. I like the idea of what they do with Casey Jones. Cassandra Jones is like barely in this, but there's a lot going on, so I'm less angry at them. I'm more just like, hey, you know, that at a certain point, you can't put everything in a movie. And I really like this film. I think it was definitely one of the best animated films of the year. I think this is a series and a franchise that we all kind of slept on and let pass us by. And it's another kind of spectacular Spider-Man kind of thing where you have like one of the better versions of a franchise that keeps going and going and going, and it feels like they make so many of the cartoons based on some of these things, you kind of just lose track of it at a certain point. Much like Spectacular Spider-Man, you should stop and admire like a real great piece of television animation, which Rise of the TMNT is. And I think looking at the movie, it especially makes me look at what we all kind of missed out on, and what they can do with such a crazy budget. I hope they get to make a sequel or something else. A third season would be great. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but if this is all we got, I'm very appreciative to enjoy this kind of richly great animated show that is especially also as rich as it is in animation. It was wonderful seeing what it did with the characters. I loved all the voices. I noticed the opening, instead of Ben Schwartz being pushed through a portal by his mentor, instead it was Ben Schwartz being a mentor to someone else and pushing him through the hole to go on an adventure. Other people have compared certain parts with the van to Sonic 2, so maybe there's a lot of Sonic comparisons, but everything about the characters was so rich and wonderful, and you understood each of the characters, even though they were very different from Ninja Turtles for a lot of people probably just checking this out. But just such a really visually rich, compelling kind of movie that I definitely want to watch again. There's like, what's the best, like overwhelming, like Maximus Cinema kind of blockbuster. TMNT is like the Maximus Cinema cartoon show. As we talk about Speed Racer and Baz Luhrmann, we're like, it's like a crazed cartoon. Well, this is a fucking crazed cartoon, and it's frenetic, and it's blowing minds while it's doing crazy Bugs Bunny skits, and it doesn't give a fuck if you care or not, or if you are paying attention or not. But when you watch it, it demands that attention, and it gets it because it's so hard and impossible to not watch all the great things that are just going on before you in your eyes. It just makes me, probably the one TMNT show that I think loves animation. It's just, wow. I don't know. I've always liked this show. I like this movie. I think it is a really great movie. I don't know if I talked about it enough, but my daughter and I had a good time, and we both wanted to watch it again. And it was overly serious and compelling in a way, but also was able to sell this kind of big dimensional story to little kids as much as an adults. I think that's pretty amazing in itself. And they didn't even say Cowabunga, but I don't need it to be my TMNT. I just want it to be a great TMNT. And Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles always was. So if you have seen Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.